Go big or go home. Hey guys, Ken here. Welcome back to the channel. On today's video, I want to talk with you about how you can increase your sales and maybe get more per postcard in your postcard business. When I first started in postcards back in January of 2020, I believe it was. I've been doing this a little over 3 years. I started out just like everybody else. I just went out and bought a bunch of huge lots just so I could, gain some inventory. But what I was finding was that a lot of the cards that I was getting in these huge lots were primarily, what some postcard sellers call junk. And they would, sellers were just lotting them off. But I needed inventory. I had to start somewhere. So I got a lot of low value cards. Now, let me just say there's nothing wrong with the lower value cards. If that's your business model and you just want to make up everything, make up your sales in volume, that's fine. It's just going to take you a long time to gain a decent amount of money because you have to sell a ton more cards. I know people that have a lot of low end cards, but they have 30,000 listings in their eBay store. Well, I'm nowhere near that. I just cleared 5,000 in my store. But what I've been doing lately is just going after higher quality cards. Now, granted, you're going to pay more for these cards. Usually I'm used to paying anywhere from 10 cents to 25 cents a card, which is great. And I still have a lot of my cards like that in my my eBay store. But I've been looking lately into just buying more high quality cards. I just sold one, in fact, for $35, but I had to pay $1 for that card, which is still a great return on investment. So, when you're thinking about, making a serious income on in the postcard business, and you don't want to have to wait, 25 years for it to manifest, you might want to think about looking for higher quality cards. And, you want to go after the same subject matters, like trains, transportation, boats, ships, city streets, mom and pop, hotels, motels, roadside Americana, that kind of thing. Those sell well, But one of the things that I've been doing is trying to concentrate more on older cards. Chromes will sell okay. I'm not saying that chromes won't sell. In fact, I know somebody that sold a chrome recently for $50, but it had some really good content on the front. It was like out of the 1950s. It was an old gas station that was well branded years ago that everybody knew. So he was able to command that kind of money for that kind of a chrome modern, what they call a modern card. But usually what you want to try to look for is older cards. I try to gravitate towards lately cards that are around the early 1900s, from 1900 to say 1915, and if it's got good content, good subject matter on the card, then chances are you can price that up a bit. You may pay more for the card, but if you can sell the card for 30, 40, 50 or more dollars, that's going to be a greater sale for you, and you'll make a lot more money in a shorter period of time. Okay, it's going to take a little more work. You're going to have to do research on this. I research several sites now when I'm looking for these types of cards, because what happens a lot of times is you're not going to find huge lots unless you got some kind of seller that you're been doing business with for a long time, and they collect really older cards. Chances are you're going to have to buy smaller lots. You're going to have to pay more per card, but you're going to be able to command more for those cards. Let me give you an example. Here's 3 cards I brought over from a recent lot that I purchased. I think I only had like 25 cards in these lots. They weren't very big, but they were all older cards. One of the keywords that the seller used was they were all, 1900s, over 100 years old. So here's one out of Portland, Oregon. This is a forestry building. Okay. And this one is dated in 1908. So it is an older card. And it's, a forestry building. That forestry building may not even be there now, because this was over 100 years ago. Who knows? Okay, so that's a card that could do well. Here's one of a train, a locomotive train, that it doesn't have any postmark cancellation strap on the back, but if you'll notice on the front, it says February 17th, 1911. And the way I like, the reason I like these is because this is handwritten. Okay, you've got the postage cancellation stamp that the post office, usually puts on there. But whenever you can get a card like this, where the date is actually handwritten, that means somebody back in 1911 wrote that. And that kind of adds to the value. And here's a black and white of the Williamsburg Bridge in New York. This is a black and white. A lot of people like black and whites. And this one is dated May 4th, 1908. Okay. Now, one thing I need to say about whenever you get black and whites, okay? If you're using a scanner, like an Epson ES400 like I use, depending on how advanced your scanner is, you may or may not be able to scan these type of cards. A lot of times I get black and whites and I'd run it through the scanner and it looks like I ran it through a Xerox copy machine. It's horrible. I mean, there's absolutely no detail. All this beautiful gray monotone ends up being, going really dark or actually turning black. And the gray sky turns white. And there's just nothing in between. It's just very black and white. Like I said, it looks like I ran it through a Xerox machine. It's absolutely horrible. In those cases, you might have to have some kind of a setup. Like I have a light box, what they call a light cube, and it has a light built into it. And it just spreads an even amount of light. And then I just prop it up inside the cube. And I actually have to take a photograph with my my Canon camera. And now I use a professional camera for that. And I use a little bit of fill flash off the top of the camera, but you don't have to. You can use a camera phone. I'm sure it'll be fine. But you're going to run into that when when you're dealing with black and whites. But these are the types of images you want to look for, just as long as it's got a very strong, interesting subject matter on the card face. And if it's got a postage stamp or it's handwritten somewhere, that's going to add value. And that way, you want to do your research. I check 3 or 4 different sites to see see if I can find a card similar to that and what it's selling for. And then what I normally do is I price it up just a little bit more than what it's selling for. And sometimes I'll put a make offer tab on it. Sometimes I won't, depending on what other people are doing. And, I don't like to copy what others are doing, but, you just want to be in the market. You don't want to do something so outrageous that, it's just going to sit there. If a card is selling for $10, you don't want to price it for $150 because chances are it's going to sit there for a while. So, price accordingly what you see in the market. I like to price it up just a little bit more to see if I can get a little bit extra for it. But, in doing that, it will help you make more money per postcard rather than having to sell everything in huge lots or sell everything, that's low end, where you have to sell a ton more cards just to achieve the same financial outcome. Okay. So I hope that's helped you a little bit. This is something that I just started doing. Now, keep in mind also that if you've been selling on eBay for a while and you've been selling primarily just low-end cards, and that's what your followers are used to, then if you start selling, higher-end cards like the ones I showed you, you may see a ding in your sales for a little while. I've noticed that because if people get used to a certain price point that you're selling your cards at, and then all of a sudden you're selling all these high-end cards, you may lose some people because, they may not be able to afford it and they'll go elsewhere. But that's okay because I've found over the years there's a market for everything. There's a market for the high-end stuff, the middle range stuff, and the low-end stuff. And you may lose some, customers on the low end, but you're going to gain customers on the high end because what you're going to do is you're going to run into collectors. And collectors have no problem paying, the upper, the higher prices for these cards because they see the value in it. Okay. Whereas maybe a hobbyist, they're going to rationalize, well, what's the cheapest I can get this card for? So keep in mind, like I said, you might take a hit on your sales at the beginning, but as people get used to seeing your new price points, they'll get used to what you're selling, and you'll gain new customers and new friends, and new people that are interested in selling what you've got. Okay, so I hope that's helped you. This is something, like I said, I started recently doing, and like I said, I did take a hit in my sales because I had a lot of low end stuff, and now I'm promoting a lot of higher end stuff. Even though I have low end stuff, what I did was I got low end cards, and I've got middle ranged price cards, and then I've got the high end stuff. So sometimes it's good to have choices. I like to give people choices. So try that out and start looking for these types of cards, that are in like 1908 and 1911 and 1908 again, and see what that'll do for your business. Might be surprised. Okay, listen, I gotta go, but thanks for watching. And if you got anything out of this video, and I hope you did, you know what to do. Smash that like button. It helps the channel. I really appreciate it. Getting real close to monetization now. I think we're within 50 subscribers of hitting that coveted 1,000 subscriber mark. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. It doesn't cost you anything. Just hit that red subscribe tab and the bell icon. That way you'll be notified every time I do a video, and help me get to 1,000. Listen, I gotta go, but you guys have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care, and bye for now.